Thank you for taking a few minutes of your day to learn about the new resources that IFEEDER is going to be launching to update our sustainability toolkit. We've been working in collaboration with animal feed industry members as well as Context. Today, we're going to get insights from a couple of the first objectives of this piece of our work. IFEEDER, as you may or may not know, is the research and education foundation that supports the animal food industry. We are working to advance understanding and trust in the sustainable animal feed and pet food supply chain through research and education. So providing resources like this are part of what we do to support the industry. And so at this point, I'll let our team members do a dive into what you're going to find in Objective 1 and Objective 2.
Thanks, Laura. We're so excited to present some of the resources that have been developed over Objective 1 and 2. And we'll go over some of the objectives specific to each of the objectives, if you would. So if we'll go to the first slide on Objective 1, the intention of Objective 1 specifically was to evaluate the supply chain data needs. And that's by assessing the issues identified as material for the feed industry and to their peers. And secondly, to understand the data and information management needs of the feed industry and their peers. And so we'll show you really quickly some of the resources that have been developed and how they might be applicable to you for Objective 1, and then we'll transition into Objective 2. If we'll go to the next slide, please. The first resource for Objective 1 was looking at a matrix to look at the common themes among the metrics that are tracked within the US and Canadian roundtables and associations. And the reason why this is really important to everyone is as you look to engage with these organizations, looking at the common metrics that might be important to report on that are of importance to you. And we looked at 5 indicators for this: GHG, water quality, feed safety and food safety, water usage, land, marine, and resource use. So we're very excited to have you look at this as well. The second resource was a SWOT analysis for data and information management for the North America animal food industry. And this SWOT analysis stands for the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we looked at this through working with our context experts and also being informed by industry interviews. So we did several interviews with industry members. And this SWOT can be really helpful to highlight some areas for you to keep in mind as you develop your own data and information strategy and processes, or if you have one existing, to look at some areas just to keep in mind as you refine that and have continuous improvement. The last resource was looking at data and information management insights. So we looked at the current state of data and information management, some of the challenges with it, and future considerations. And this was really informed by several interviews with industry participants where we wanted to highlight where data and information management is today and where it can be in the future and the challenges to get to the future. And this can be helpful to you as you look at your data and information management processes. So you can really help to mitigate those risks for the challenges and consider those future considerations that could make it better in the future. So in summary, looking at these 3 resources, these were developed through the help of Context, IFEEDER, as well as the IFEEDER Advisory Committee to work together to develop these resources. And we really hope you'll take a look and it'll be helpful to yourself as well. As we transition to Objective 2 on the next slide, the intention of Objective 2 is to really evaluate the opportunities to reduce the environmental footprint of feed by assessing the common animal health and nutrition performance metrics. So these can be metrics that can be used as opportunities to reduce the environmental footprint of feed. As we look on the next slide, the first step of this process was to really map for the approval pathway of feed ingredients, the different 5 functional areas. And under these functional areas, we looked at several different product categories, and the advisory chose 6 of these different product categories to look at in the analysis. And I'll turn it over to Emily to talk a little bit more about that analysis.
Thanks, Sarah. So the next step that we did was we went to use multiple sources to complete the literature review by searching for those 6 categories that were identified in the previous step. As articles came in, we were finding thousands of them that included international and domestic based research. And we used the funnel metric to narrow these down into articles that were in scope that would then be added into the database. So articles were reviewed through different lenses to see if they would advance into the analysis step. Articles not included in the assessment include antibiotics, international articles, other product categories, and articles that didn't include metrics, whether they were direct or indirect to environmental and feed impacts. In the actual data set, there are some additional international articles that, as we came across them, we did highlight them, but they were not included in the analysis. The first resource that can be found for this research was the actual mapped impacts of these articles to the animal supply chains. We did this across beef, dairy, pork, poultry, and egg supply chains. And as you can see on this slide, the articles are mapped to the respective part of the protein supply chain where that research occurred. So as you look at number 1 there for under product category for eubiotics, it maps to the cow-calf operation in the beef supply chain. The second resource here is the actual Excel article database. It is searchable. You can search for articles using keywords under the name, author, species, impact, or use the article links to read more of the details. And I'll turn it back over to Sarah to talk about the importance.
A lot of great information there too that you could take a look at. And as we looked at this project, this is really the first step in how we move the industry forward in terms of data information strategy. So the first phase being these methodology considerations and having that range of metrics. But as we look forward, this can be used in the next phase of refining that methodology and looking at clear expectations for the quality and quantity of data needed, and potentially even developing a calculator or having public-private information sharing and analysis. So we look forward to the future of this work, and I'll turn it back to Laura.
Before we go back to Laura, there's a couple of thoughts that I had as we reviewed this. When we think back to Objective 1, the strategic intention that we had was to take a look at the environmental impacts and to think about them at a high level from a materiality standpoint, and to find some of the common areas that the associations, the roundtables, the industry organizations are looking at. So think of this as a pre-screening for your materiality assessments that you could use. And then the second phase that we're dealing with, Objective 2, sets you up for the next phase of work that can go to the environmental impacts that can be research-based and that you can have scientific grounding on towards the accounting of the impact of feed ingredients on the footprint of the animal food system. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you all, Sarah and Emily and Matt, providing some insights into those 2 resources. As you all know, IFEEDER has been working on this effort for a couple of years now to be able to provide resources that support the animal food industry within their sustainability efforts. And this is just another step in that process. We're on a journey, as well as our members being on a journey, and we want to be able to provide resources that can support you. So you can once again find these resources on ifeeder.org, and be on the lookout for additional actions and efforts that we have underway. And if you have questions about these, feel free to reach out to me at Laura Moody or lmoody@afia.org. Thanks.